Hey, what's going on, guys? It's the Crypto Siege with another day in the life, in the crazy life that is the digital asset space. Good morning. Happy Friday. Is it Friday? I think it's Friday. No, it's Saturday. It's Saturday. I have no idea what day of the week it is. I think today is Friday. Wow, that is crazy. I don't even know what day of the week it is, but I do believe it is Friday. Good morning to you. Hope you're having a blessed day so far and have an even better day as the day progresses. Wow, so I just spent over an hour, listening to David Schwartz and Charlie Shrem, and I have to tell you, what a very insightful interview and conversation. Shout out to Charlie Shrem for making that happen. I think it's so important to go back and understand where things were in the beginning to truly understand where we are today. I really, really believe that. But before I go on, I want to make sure you guys know that we do have a podcast. It's The Crypto Siege, and it is on all the major podcasts, including Spotify, iTunes, and Stitcher. So if you'd like to listen while you're doing something, whether you're cooking, cleaning, or if you're on the road, you can definitely check us out there at The Crypto Siege, CEEJ, The Crypto Siege, on those podcasts for sure. And you can certainly follow me on Twitter if you like, at crypto_siege, CEEJ as well. And so on Facebook, it's The Crypto Siege. That's the name of the page. So if you like to hang out on Facebook, you can find there. I upload all the videos that I do. A lot of the videos that I do, I upload on that page on Facebook as well. But I got to tell you, I'm really, really excited about having a chance to share some of this interview with you guys, because it did point to something that I've been saying almost from the very, very beginning about Ripple and the banks. You guys are going to want to stay tuned to the end to hear about that. But let's go over something that I think is pretty significant. Wow. So let me share this. So this is from Cookie Monster on Twitter, who shared this with the community. So with the digital asset space community, right? The U.S. printed more money in the month of June than in the previous 2 centuries combined. I'm starting to think we are closer to a digital currency than anticipated. Is it time for cryptocurrency to shine like Bitcoin and XRP? Guys, just think about that for a second. The U.S. printed more money in 1 month than it has in 2 centuries, 200 years. That, my friends, is wow. So that, I'm not going to go over this article, but that is really, really significant, right? When you think about it, and the digital assets, with the limited supply, I think it's hugely important. I was listening to BK earlier this morning, and was it BK? Yeah, so he was part of a panel discussion with Link2, and it had this guy named JP Theralot, and he was talking about different things and whether the U.S. was going to quickly embrace the digital currency and CBDCs, or if it was going to take a long time. And DAI made an interesting point, and I think it's important to note that, custody is great. We talked about Brian Brooks and what the OCC has done and what it's going to allow banks to do. But ultimately, as the new people on board into this digital asset space. So again, we say on this channel, the OCC's move to allow banks to custody digital assets, right? Put together this bank charter, allows banks to custody digital assets. It's not for you and I, right? But what it will do is it will onboard the masses, right? So it will begin that process. But like anything, people evolve, right? And so what we want to do and become better educated, right? So what we want to do is onboard the masses, if you will, and then what I like to say is hurry them along, right? And so in our business, we teach and train. You want to usher them in and then hurry them along, right? Send them on the journey of discovering what the true value of digital assets are. And once the masses begin to get that, the custody thing is going to go down for banks. It's not going to go up. It's going to go down, right? And the other thing that's going to start to happen is with the digital dollar or whatever it's going to look like for the United States, there's going to come a point in time where people are going to say, why would I hold that if it's being printed out of oblivion? So my guess is that the U.S. is going to look at what's taking place. They have to make that digital dollar valuable. And one of the components to doing that, just like in digital assets, is a fixed supply. How is that going to work with major nations? A fixed supply. I believe that's what China did initially with theirs. Now, correct me in the comments, please, if you know that to be the case or not with China. But I believe China did do a fixed amount. And so is that what's going to happen with the U.S. digital dollar? Right. And so the key really is not just getting the digital dollar project, getting it out, getting this digital, is doing it the right way. That will be the key, because let's just face it, the dollar has competition, right? Right. Once they discovered that they couldn't stronghold the technology, they now have to adjust and pivot to, well, there's competition, and how do we compete? Because merchants, businesses are taking digital assets as a form of payment. So how does the US dollar continue to compete? And that, from that perspective, how are they going to continue to compete? That is the question. It truly is the question, right? Right now, it may not be as big as a concern, right? Because just predominantly the US dollar is still, it's still the global reserve currency, but they do have to consider it, because innovation is going to continue to do what it does, which is it just gets better. It just gets better. So this concept, look, this whole idea of printing more money, look, it's going to come to a point where it is no longer accepted. It is no longer something that's going to become valued, unless they make some moves by backing it by something. And this is what I believe ultimately is going to happen. A US dollar is going to be backed by something where the world says, okay, that's cool, that's valuable, we get that. And whether it be gold or whether it be a digital asset, I don't know, but I believe that is going to happen for sure. So just think about that. The United States has printed more money in a month than they had done in 200 years. That is an interesting point. In a letter to investors released on the 29th of July, Pantera Capital CEO Dan Moorhead, Pantera is into the digital asset space big time, noted that the United States has printed a shocking amount of money to combat the beer cold-induced financial crisis. The United States printed more money in June than the first 2 centuries after its founding, Moorhead wrote. So just an interesting thing. Shout out to the people from Cointelegraph for bringing that to our attention. Pretty significant stuff. This is something, I don't know if I want to share this or not, but this is something from the World Economic Forum. And I just want you guys to listen to this and just, tell me what you think. bank. Okay. So here it is, guys. And I apologize to people out there in the podcast where obviously you can't see the video. So I should read it. I should read the stuff to you. But there's something that this is from the World Economic Forum, and they tweeted out, traveling with confidence. So something Uplink has created is something called Beer Code Pass. In the world, those of you out there in podcast world may or may not know on this channel, since we can't mention certain words, right? We use the word beer code to talk about the current challenges and why people are having to wear masks, right? So very, very interesting thing. So it's called the Beer Code Pass, and what it does essentially is somehow. Let me do this again. This app could help revive global travel and large events during the Beer Code. It's an app. It's called Beer Code Pass, and it's on your phone. It looks as though it's created by Uplink, something called Uplink. I'm going to play it again, and I'm going to read it to the guys out in the podcast world. Enabling people to visit countries, conferences, and sports events safely. Users will have their blood screened at an approved Beer Code Pass laboratory before being issued with a secure QR Health Visa code via their phone. So essentially, in order to be able to travel and to provide a level of safety for travelers, and obviously this is something that right now is going to be voluntary. You go to a particular place, you get your blood tested, and then it's a blood test, right? You get your blood tested, and you get this, download this app on your phone that says that you are whatever, right? You don't have it, right? You're non-infectious, right? And so now different places, stadiums, events, or whatever, right? They can scan your thing, and they're only going to be they can now choose who to let into these events, right? Who to let in, because they've voluntarily done this and they tested non-whatever for the thing. So this is a very, very interesting concept. It's coming from the World Economic Forum. So I don't know how far this is going to go, how, you know, where it's gone, how far it's going to go, but I think it's an interesting thing. I do know that VeChain, right? So VeChain has some technology, and they can do the same. That hotels, major hotel chains, are using VeChain's technology for the very same thing, right? Because of a hotel or a conference, right? What is it? A conference center wants to hold an event. How do they know, right? And so VeChain has something set up in their technology that can do that. They can actually check and see whether or not people are testing or have it or whatever. VeChain has that. This coming from the World Economic Forum, I find to be very, very fascinating because it's an app that you can actually put on your phone. We'll have to look into this further. I'm going to read a little bit more, then I'm going to go on. But before being issued with a secure QR Health Visa code via their phone. So they go to the laboratory to get to give the blood, and then they get this. It says, which they can present at airline check-in, borders, or event entrances. The digital passport does not, and I wanted to share this with you guys. The digital passport does not include tracing technology, right? So this is where the security and privacy comes in. So it says it does not include tracing technology. It says and because it doesn't have the tracing technology, it does preserve data privacy while saving time and money. The Beer Code Pass's creators say that by using blood test data, it's 100% reliable. Interesting. and could ensure only non-infectious people travel across borders. Obviously, this is going to come up to whether this laboratory testing will be mandatory or voluntary. But the other part of it is if airlines and hotels say, hey, without this test, you're not able to come and hang out. You're not able to get on board this plane. That's an interesting concept. It says, while monitoring access to conferences and pilgrimages, it uses real-time automated epidemiological data and blockchain technology. Wow. That could help countries manage future waves of the bear cold or other epidemics without the need for a total lockdown. Wow. CovidPass plans to launch in September. It commits to mandatory carbon offsetting for each of its passengers to preserve the environmental benefits of reduced air travel during the crisis. Interesting. I'm going to cover this on a stream later today. So obviously we know how this has affected travel. It says in a major way, the beer code has done that. International arrivals are predicted to be down by 76% in 2020. Airline passenger demand may not recover until 2024, while millions of jobs in tourism are at risk. The beer code has pushed back events worldwide, including the Tokyo Summer Olympics. All right, so I'm not going to go any further. Guys, do me a favor, comment in the comments. What do you think? Leave a comment. What do you think about this? It's an interesting thing. So it's a laboratory that you go to. You donate some blood. Blood's tested, right? You download this app on your phone. It has a QR code. It says you're non-infectious, you're right, you don't have it, or whatever it's going to say, right? Would you feel confident if other people had it? And would you feel confident that I know at this event, they do this particular thing with the QR code, and so all the people in the event have tested, they're not positive, they don't, whatever it is, right? Would you feel more comfortable? Do you feel as though right now, obviously, it's not coming out till September. What is that going to mean? Is this going to be a mandatory? Is it going to be a voluntary thing to do this blood? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. For me personally, right now in this moment, looking through this video, I would feel good. I would do the blood. Right? I would want to, obviously, right? I would do it. And if I can feel another level of confidence traveling, because this is something that everyone has, I will be in favor for it. At this moment, again, I'm just thinking out loud now. I would be in favor of it. Would love to hear what you guys think about that. It's an interesting thing. So I will definitely cover this when I do a live stream today. I have an interview, by the way, guys, just to let you know, if you want to hang out 2 p.m. Eastern time, I will be on XRP Army News. I'll be doing an interview with XRP Army News. Looking forward to it. I have not met this person. I know that he's been interviewed, he or she or they, okay, have been interviewing people throughout the community, right? Taking a very interesting approach. So just interviewing people in the community and allowing us to get to know more of other people in the community, I think it's a smart idea, a great idea. So 2 p.m. Eastern time, XRP Army News. I don't know if I am going to, I guess I should stream it also, right? And stream it on this channel too. So interesting thing. Let's get to David Schwartz and Charlie Shrem. I think it is so important, again, that we understand what's going on. And David was great. You know what David is. He has a way of taking these very complex things and making them making it so that a junior high school kid could understand it. And that's a pretty powerful skill to have. But some very, very interesting insights on the early days of the XRP ledger, the early days of Bitcoin. And Charlie Shrem acknowledging and being dude enough, man enough to admit that he was wrong in a lot of ways in his criticism of Ripple or XRP or the ledger. Man enough to own up and say that he didn't know, right? So interesting thing. And shout out, by the way, to Crypto Eddie, who first pointed out to me, I did not know that this interview had been taking place. I think I'd heard it was going to happen, but what Crypto Eddie reminded me of was that turned me on to was that it was a very insightful thing and that you should watch it to the very end. And she was exactly right. Absolutely. You want to level up your IQ in this space and on Ripple and XRP and the XRP ledger. That's a video you want to watch to the very end. Grab your favorite libation, okay, and check that out. So let's go. I'm going to start it. See what I want to start. Let's start here.
Use. And there was an attempt in the United States to prohibit the export of encryption technology, but essentially those battles were all lost, and I think we all won as a result of that. The internet has been a tremendously powerful force that gives millions of people around the world, hundreds of millions, access to the vast majority of human knowledge at their fingertips.
And what he's talking about here is, just a little heads up, what he was talking about is a lot of people don't understand that the internet and the bringing on that technology was hugely pushed back. The internet, the thing we all love and can't be without, was hugely pushed back by the powers that be, governments, whatever, hugely pushed back. And he was making a point that those concerns were legitimate concerns. But he said eventually the technology went out because of the added value that multiplied and compounded for the masses, the added value.
And I think that we're going to some extent repeat that story with the financial system.
We are going to repeat that story with the financial system, and that sounds like that's kind of why you got involved in the industry, is that you're like drawing all these parallels one to the other. And the second part of my question was, how is the ledger since evolved? And you're probably wondering why I threw that question in there, but I guess it's because when this industry got started almost 10 years ago, I'm just going to say a decade ago for the ease of use, no one knew what was going on. We had all these ideas, all these thoughts, and they were constantly being fluid and constantly evolving. And messaging was different, and ideas and thoughts, even the way I ran my companies, the way I ran myself, those were always changing. So I guess to go back to the question is how has it evolved or changed? And is Ripple and and I want to have three different things. I want to have the XRP ledger. I want to have Ripple as a company, and then I want to talk about XRP as a token. And I'd love if you can actually, for the sake of all the stupid people on Twitter, just explain the difference between the three. But I guess I want to know, for better or for worse, how is it different than what you wanted it to be back in 2012?
Yeah, it's a tough question because it was so hard to know back then. We didn't have the kind of perspective that you get looking back years later. What we wanted was we wanted everybody to have access to a financial system that worked for them. We wanted people to be able to hold the asset that worked for them. I think one of the biggest things was that people effectively have no choice but to hold their national currency. If you're wealthy and if you're in some countries that have really good financial systems, it is possible to like go to effort to hold other currencies. But like one of the visions was this idea that I'm a gold bug, I like gold. But I'm not going to find someone who's going to pay me in gold, and I'm not going to find a grocery store that's going to take gold. Wouldn't it be awesome if my employer could pay me and I just got gold? And I could go to the grocery store and maybe they price in whatever national currency they want to price in, but I sort of pay with gold.
And so that was the original thing of Ripple in the beginning, right? Everybody, being able to use and transact in the currency of their own choice. And David goes on to say that it was actually Ryan Fugger's idea. His original idea is, let's be able to interact and use currencies that we want to use, not have to be mandated, right, by the powers that be that say you have to use this particular asset, or that we could create a network of peers who see value in different currencies and exchange them amongst ourselves. That was the original idea from Ryan Fugger. And a lot of people don't know that. But let me go to this minute here. This is a huge thing here, because we're gonna go to something that I have been saying since day one about Ripple. Now it might not be in this segment. It might be in minute 27, but let's start here at minute 25.
Oh, you have to assess credit risk, and you have to like worry about systemic risk, and you have to, it's almost the bad side. But I still think that that's a great vision. I think one day we may be able to build the tools to allow people to manage that. I think if people are going to have access to these powerful tools like cryptocurrencies, and especially if things like decentralized finance catch on, then people will need sophisticated tools to interact with those systems because they're sophisticated systems. The solution can't be everybody has to become a financial expert and understand all of the systems that they're working with, right? Like computers did not get mass adoption when you had to be a computer expert to use a computer. Automobiles didn't get mass adoption when you had to be a car expert and be your own mechanic to have a car. So if you think DeFi is going to take over the world and ordinary people are going to access these complex derivatives and credit systems and lending, then there's just going to have to be tools that make that easy for them to use. So you just have to sort of imagine that those tools are going to exist in the future. Otherwise, that's just not going to happen.
You just said that not everyone has to become a financial institution. But what's great is that what you've been doing is, through a back-end way, enabling anyone to become their own financial institution. And what I mean by that is you guys were the first company really to go out to banks, to financial institutions, to real companies, and to hedge funds and talk about cryptocurrency. Like, do you remember? I remember sitting in like your office and like just working out of my laptop, and I was a kid. I was and I was the adult in the room. So here we are, like, what does that say about our industry at the time? You guys were the first ones to go out there, one of the first ones to go out there and like pitch the idea of cryptocurrency to basically the legacy financial system. So it's understandable that you've had to like explain crypto to them on their terms. Like, were there any types of conversations that you wouldn't have with them? Like, would you just not explain mining and things like that because you knew that was just going to go over everyone's head?
Well, in the early days, it was very hard to have those conversations. And I think part of the early, in 2014, 2015, well, let me back up a tiny bit. So Ripple's original strategy was everybody use the XRP ledger.
Listen to this. This is so very important. Ripple's early days strategy was everybody use the XRP ledger. It's very, very important. Like, listen to this.
For everything. Yeah. That was like the strategy.
The legacy financial system. So it's understandable that you've had to like explain crypto to them on their terms. Like, were there any types of conversations that you wouldn't have with them? Like, would you just not explain mining and things like that because you knew that was just going to go over everyone's head?
Well, in the early days, it was very hard to have those conversations. And I think part of the early, in 2014, 2015, well, let me back up a tiny bit. So Ripple's original strategy was everybody use the XRP ledger for everything. Yeah. That was like the strategy when you don't have a strategy. That was the Bitcoin strategy.
On Swift, essentially.
Right. Just like the Bitcoin strategy was everybody use Bitcoin for everything. Like you don't need anything else to use Bitcoin for everything. And that's when you don't have a good strategy. And then Ripple kind of evolved the Ripple Net strategy of this idea that like international payments and remittances were broken. Let's try to find product market fit using digital assets or some sort of a new system that would target enterprise payments. And we pursued that strategy. And we would go to financial institutions, and we kind of didn't talk much about digital assets at the time because they weren't receptive. But we did discover something right around that time, probably around 2016, 2017, when it was just starting to become okay and financial institutions were starting to think, do we need a digital asset strategy? Like, do we have to say something about this? Like, people are asking us, is Bitcoin a threat to your business? Do you have a strategy? And right around that time, we discovered something that it was incredibly surprising to me.
And here's the thing that you're going to hear. There's something that right around that time, we discovered something that was incredibly interesting to me, is what David Schwartz is saying. So again, remember this, right? They had this strategy in the beginning, in the early days. Everybody will use the XRP ledger for everything. Everybody will use the XRP ledger for everything, right? And they pivoted in the strategy, right? They pivoted in their strategy. And so in business, we talk about this all the time. The plan that you start out with will not be the plan that gets you to where you want to go. But you have to start with a plan. And so around 2014, 2015, 2016, and starting with this plan and taking it to the financial institutions, they discovered something very, very interesting. And what you're going to hear and understand here is what I have been saying from day one about Ripple. I couldn't find the video on my channel, or the live stream and or video on my channel. I couldn't find it for some reason, but I always talk about Ripple. And the idea is that a lot of people think that it's a banker's coin, right? That they're helping banks. Even smart people like Alex Mashinsky has said that they're helping the banks. The reality is that I have been saying is that they're exposing the banks. They're doing, if the change that needs to be done has to be done from the inside. And so I likened it to the movie Inside Man with Clive Owens and Denzel Washington. And you're going to listen to here on this video that this is what David Schwartz and people from Ripple discovered as well, right? Because I've said this before, I don't know how many times. Look, there's 10,000, 12,000 banks. I don't know what it is. There's a top 8 and a top 10 that benefit from the current system. So if there's 10,000, the other 9,990 do not benefit. Let me say that again. If there's 10,000 banks, the top 10 benefit from the current system. The other 9,990 banks, they do not. They do not. So just because, and we're going to talk about this in this video, David's going to talk about this. So just because you get charged a fee doesn't mean that the bank is benefit from that. It's the top 10 banks that benefit from that. And that's the facts. And David's going to point this out in this video as well.
You can make an argument to people that the financial system is biased in favor of the big banks and they run everything and they can make money and nobody else can get a fair shake from the system. You can make that kind of argument. The weird thing is that argument resonates with banks. If you're one of the very largest banks in the world, then that argument's not going to resonate with you. You would love technology to never change. I mean, you're going to say that you're pro-technology and that you're innovative, but let's be honest. If you're one of the top 10 banks in the world, you would prefer to push stop on innovation and keep everything right the way it is because you're on top of the world. But you don't have to go down very far to find banks that want more business and that want to grow and want to innovate. And they are very receptive to this idea that it's the people it's their larger competitors that are trying to prevent innovation who want to push pause. And the amazing thing is one of the criticisms that you'll hear about the XRP ledger is it's a bank chain. It's built to be a bank chain. The paradoxical thing is people think that a bank chain means centralized control, but that's not true. Because imagine if you're a bank, but you're not one of the top 10 banks in the world. And I go to you and I say, listen, Mr., large mid-sized bank, you are not going to run the financial system. It's the large. If banks are running the financial system, it's not going to be you. It's going to be the bigger banks. You have two choices. You can transact on a system that's run by your largest competitors, or you can transact on a system that's decentralized and nobody can control it. Your call. What are they going to pick? And the answer is, yeah. Over time, what they realized is that like censorship resistance and decentralization actually is something that they want because they're pressured by their larger competitors. And so
that, my friends, is what I've been saying from day one. Listen, the 9,990 banks want a better way to participate in the banking system. And the biggest challenge is the misinformation out there in the space that it's the banks growing. So what they're doing, and we're talking to masses, we're talking about whatever, mainstream, whatever you want to say, throwing the 9,990 banks in the same pool with the Goldman Sachs, the JP Morgans, the big top 10 banks. That is not the case. A lot of people don't understand that the other 9,990 banks pay to participate to the top 10 banks. They have to pay to participate. They have to pay to participate. What Ripple discovered was that very thing and said, we'll pivot, we'll adjust, we'll evolve, right? Just like David Schwartz says, look, you're not going to run the financial system. If banks run the financial system, it's not going to be you, because you're not only you're not in the top 10, you're in the bottom 1,000. You're in the middle 5,000. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? And so do you want to participate and put transaction on a system that is draining you and billing you and charging you to participate? Or do you want to be in a system and providing transactions and doing transactions on a censorship resistant, decentralized system that no one controls? And what they discovered is that the bank said, yes, that is exactly what we would like. Not the top 8 to 10 banks. They're not saying that. Oh, no. But the vast majority of banks are saying it. And the challenge that has been holding them back from being able to participate in this censorship resistant and decentralized space, if you will, or chain, if you will, has been regulation, or the lack thereof. So again, when we talked about on the stream, when the OCC came out, Brian Bush came out about this banks being able to custody stuff, right? Digital assets. We said, don't try to reach Brad right now. He's busy. He's on the phone, right? Because they've had the conversation in the early days, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. They've had the conversations. They know the sentiment coming from the banks. They know what the majority, the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of banks want. A censorship resistant, decentralized, where no one can control it. They want it. They want that. And now they have an opportunity to take advantage of it, okay, and use an asset, a digital asset, to make it even better for them. Participate in this censorship resistant and decentralized space, yes, and use a digital asset, your choice, and use a digital asset that'll make your operation that more efficient, that will save you that much money, that will free up the notion of roster count, that would allow you to not have to be strong-armed by the top 8 to 10 banks. That is where we are. That is what Ripple has been doing. Now, can we say that that was their initial thing? No. David Schwartz said their initial thing is everyone's going to use the XRP ledger for everything. But on their journey, they evolved. Their plan changed. It changed, it pivoted, it adjusted to what to meet the need in the space. To meet the need in the space. So when you hear about this bank coin and bank chain and all that, it's just simply misinformation. It is not true. It's an inside job. It's changing the system from within. Changing the system. How many of you know that the banks, they don't get to keep the return check fees? Like a lot of people think that the banks keep that. Yeah, they do. The top 8 to 10 banks keep it, not your bank, not your local community bank, not your credit union, not the other 9,990 banks. They don't get to keep it. They have to forward that over to the top 8 to 10 banks. And he talks about that in this particular interview. But I'm gonna cover the rest of this on a live stream, hopefully today as well. But I'm gonna wrap this video up. It's been pretty long, but I just wanted to point that out to you. It's always been an inside job. It has always been, in my humble opinion, it has always been. Check out that movie, The Inside Man, with Kyle Owens and Denzel Washington, because everyone believed that those robbers in the bank were doing one thing, but ultimately they were doing quite another thing. And I believe that to be the case with Ripple as well. So, all right, guys, listen, I am going to wrap up this video like I do all my videos, and remind you guys of this. Old money doesn't want you to win. They don't want us to win. They would rather us remain a cog in their perpetual wheel of trading our time for dollars. They don't want us to play in the same playground that they play in, where we allow our money to work for us. This is our chance to win, guys. The digital asset space is our chance to win. We are in the midst of the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of man. Are you participating, or are you standing on the sidelines? Here's what I do know, that the battle for you has already been fought, and the victory is yours. Go get it. I'll talk to you soon, guys. See ya. Bye.